Another year, another Skylanders. 2016's installment, Imaginators, marks the 6th entry starring Spyro the Dragon, continuing the never-ending cycle Activision has created in order to sell action figures like Pokemon. Unlike Pokemon, this series has been nothing more than a soul-crushing cash grab. The only winner upon this game's release every year is Activision's bottom line. Skylanders is the most successful toys-to-life game out there, mainly due to the company pioneering the genre into what it is today. With this latest installment, Skylanders continues to pump out new toys to flood the void in retail space Disney Infinity left behind earlier this year, with 2 new types of Skylanders toys for Imaginators, the Senseis and the Imaginator Crystals. The Senseis are your run-of-the-mill Skylanders. They're powerful beings capable of increasing the various elements' levels by scanning all of them into the Portal of Power. While other Skylanders toys are compatible, they simply aren't as capable because of the game's strict focus on Senseis. And the other type of toys, Imaginator Crystals. Imaginator Crystals exist with each element type. Similar to the Trap Team toys, each Imaginator Crystal has one element type and saves one of a variety of kinds of Skylanders. The Imaginators can be made from parts collected within the game itself. Players can improve the stats of their custom Skylander by finding parts within the world. Should you want to make your custom Skylander more appealing in the real world, Activision will let you spend just a measly $50 to have your Imaginator 3D printed. But don't forget, you can also choose to make a t-shirt for $25 with a picture of your Imaginator on it, or $15 for a trading card. There wouldn't be as much of an issue if the game's central focus wasn't getting people to throw money around. The central map screen has a cache of treasure chests that can be collected in-game, but can be purchased through a microtransaction page that is very easy for younger players to tap. If you thought loot boxes were terrible, wait until you hear about Little Jimmy racking up $300 this Christmas on Skylander parts. Corporate corruption aside, what is Skylanders Imaginators? Well, if you haven't bothered to care for this series at all, the game is similar to Diablo. Many parallels can also be made to the LEGO game series as well. Skylanders is a beat-em-up brawler mashed with loot collection. The collected coins are used to purchase upgrades for different Skylanders, which will unlock new moves. This game has a jump button, which is notable because previous games didn't have that. Mind you, this is a game based on Spyro the Dragon, and it used to lack a jump button. We might even take off points for lacking a double jump button, but we can just ignore that because honestly, the platforming may be some of the best this generation has to offer so far. While we wait for Yooka-Laylee and the Crash Bandicoot remaster to come out, Skylanders is actually a pretty competent platformer that can be played in drop-in, drop-out co-op. The levels are varied pretty well and have moments that look absolutely amazing. At least until the game reminds you that you should be playing the way it wants you to play, suggesting that you play as a character type you don't own, and making the game harder if you don't comply with its demands. It is, after all, a Skylanders game. Skilled players can ignore the constant reminders, though, and our playthrough primarily relied on Crash Bandicoot and Dr. Neo Cortex as our Skylanders of choice. Keep in mind, if a Skylander dies, you can't use that character until you exit a level, so you have to switch out your Skylanders like lives. Crash has the unique property of having extra lives. However, his health is much lower compared to other Skylanders, making the extra lives more of a cosmetic gimmick meant as a reference to his own series. Speaking of Crash, Skylanders Imaginators offers Crash Bandicoot as a playable guest character. This crossover will unlock a level pack if Crash or Cortex are scanned into the game. The level is Thumpin' Wumpa Islands, and is a throwback to classic Crash Bandicoot gameplay, but modernized to be as easy as Skylanders can be. Sorry platformer fans, the Crash side of the game isn't going to be the classic teeth-grinding experience you grew up with. However, the character retains his abilities from his own game and adds a spin on classic moves. Meanwhile, Cortex is based on his short playable time in Crash Twinsanity. Cortex primarily uses his gun in a variety of ways, including the Plasma Blast move that he used in Twinsanity. His hover jet is a dash attack that allows him to continue to jump and shoot while riding. Since Crash and Cortex are both senseis, they can unlock finishing moves. Crash can use his yo-yo from Warped, Crash Team Racing, and Crash Nitro Kart to throw and grind into foes, and Cortex will modify his gun into a scepter capable of raining down a laser beam on foes. The two playstyles of these characters show off the unique gameplay styles offered, much like the rest of the cast. While much of the game feels focused on selling more character figurines, this aspect does reward you with a refreshing feeling to the game in return for your patronage. The presentation of the gameplay is fun, but with levels that last on average 20 to 30 minutes, the gameplay often gets stale and never seems to find a good balance in making battles fun after the first 100 enemies or so. Enemies become damage sponges as the game goes on, and so does your Skylander. the game never feels particularly hard, and this was especially evident when we played on the hardest difficulty available at the beginning of the game. There is a nightmare difficulty for those courageous, but it is only unlocked after the game is completed once. For the price, Skylanders has an extensive amount of content. The game has carried over its supercharged racing modes that can be enjoyed when you feel like taking a break from the beat-em-up action. The tracks are beautiful and make it feel almost like a full-fledged game in its own right, similar to the Sonic All-Stars racing series. This could have just been included as DLC, but thankfully it is a full-fledged mode in this package. The races can also be played online. Unlike some previous entries, the rest of the game is local co-op only now. Another minigame is Creation Clash. It's a tic-tac-toe style game with the goal of getting as many spaces as possible. Spikes are on some of the tiles, which can be used to overtake your opponent's space. This game is really fun and would make an amazing app. What aren't amazing are the cutscenes, which seem to be desynced when played on PlayStation 4. Voice lines in just about any of the CG cutscenes never sync up with the audio properly. This is alarming and embarrassing when considering the cast of famous actors in this game. On top of that, even in 2016, the characters are more lifeless than they were in Spyro games released back in the 90s. Characters in games simply play back the same talking animation cycle with no effort to sync up lips or to make varied expressions to different voice tones. Overall, this year's entry is mixed. The gameplay is fun, but gets repetitive. Crash and Cortex are fun to play as, but it's almost hilarious how much Spyro is ignored in his own series. The presentation is inconsistent, and just about everything is made to line Activision's pockets. If the series is going to rely on this many payment methods to extend its life, it may soon follow Disney Infinity out the door. If you're a college student, you should be able to get through the game with the included starter pack characters. However, it's not going to win many points with its awful jokes or flawed attempts on capturing a modern audience with cringy features like selfie mode. If anything, modes with titles like that will only make this game age horribly even faster. If you're a Crash fan, pick it up cheap. It's just not going to be loaded with the Crash content you've been itching for almost a decade. Overall, it's too expensive to justify past its main target audience, fun gameplay notwithstanding.